Hey there, it's Dave Carberry again from Needworking. We are here today for Hot Potato Session number 3. It's exciting when, as I explained before, what exactly the Hot Potato Sessions are. Basically, it's somebody that's an expert that has insight that I know nothing about. And so we look to find different guests and people that we can bring on board to our Hot Potato Session to have exciting information for everyone. And so today I'm excited to introduce Linda Katz-Wilner, who's from Successfully Speaking. And Linda's here to help me speak because sometimes I can't get the words out. So Linda, welcome today.
Thanks, Dave. And it's funny because we all know something about communication, but hopefully I can add some insights and some new information.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things where I've presented on stage and I just did it. I did an eye roll. And when I think, I actually have to like concentrate and I've caught myself doing that. When you watch the video, all of a sudden you're doing different things that you don't realize. And I use a lot of hand motion. So when I'm up on stage, I walk around, I pace, and sometimes I say and the ahs. And those are the things that I think it's difficult for people to kind of train themselves on how to stop that. And so what you do is you coach people, correct, to actually try to prevent those items and then just refine what people are doing when they're doing either a Zoom presentation up on stage, how they're speaking to people, and how they really put their voice out. So yeah, I'd love to learn more. Like what are what are the big things people are asking you for right now?
Well, people have discomfort in public speaking. Some people don't like to speak up in front of a group. Some people, if they see themselves on video, they are absolutely shocked because that's how the world is seeing us. And the same, so you go back to the days when people used to hear their voicemail and say, that's not me. Well, that's how everybody else hears you. And so a lot of us have trouble when we get to see what everybody else sees. And most of us are highly critical of ourselves. And so when I work with somebody, I can evaluate them in 3 different areas, Dave. The 3 areas are visually, how do they look? And that's what you just pointed out, that my eyes roll when I'm talking, or I use my hands, or I pace too much. That's your whole visual presentation. And that does communicate a lot. That shows the audience how nervous you might be, or how uncomfortable you might be, depending how you're using your hands. And so that's the visual part. Then there's the vocal part. And that's how you sound. We don't always think about that part. That's, do you speak clearly? Are you speaking too fast? Do you speak in a monotone? Are you too perky? And it just doesn't sound very authentic, and you don't sound as professional if you're talking like this all the time. And so there's the variety of your voice. There's even the accent, whether it's a regional dialect or a foreign accent. And all of these are part of your vocal, the way you sound. And then the third part is the verbal. What do you say? And that's usually what we think about. I have a presentation. What am I going to say? Is it organized? Does it have the ums and the ahs? And are we disrupting it, which is a little bit of the vocal and the verbal? And the idioms, do I use idioms that people understand? And so when I work with somebody, I help them identify how they are with their visual, how they are with their vocal, and how that fits with the verbal. And hopefully they're all in alignment. Because when they're not, we get confused and we don't know who the real person is.
Interesting. Well, it's funny when I speak in front of a crowd, it depends on the situation too. There's certain situations that I've been comfortable where I know the topic so well that I'll boom, boom, boom and go through and just roll. But there's some times when I have trained and I've practiced and worked on something that I'll fly through it. Or if you've got time limitations, I think sometimes when you're up on stage and they want you to keep it within a certain boundary, you want to make sure you're concentrating on that time. So you focus on trying to get it done really fast. And then you start talking fast. And then you go through your presentation really fast. And then people are like, what the hell did they just say?
Right.
So yeah, so I think those are the things, like, how do you coach someone to really slow down and get to that point where they're looking at being up on stage in front of those people and talking fast? And then when you do talk fast, you have the dry mouth and you start getting nervous and then you start freaking out. And I've been in those situations.
Yes.
They're not fun.
And what you're mentioning is sometimes we over prepare. And when we do that, we memorize. And then we get up there and we're like a robot. The audience can always tell when we're memorizing.
Mhm.
And so one of the things you want to do, you said speaking fast. That's what so many people do. And I coach them not to speak slowly like this because you'll put your audience to sleep,
Mhm.
but to speak in thought groups, to chunk your speech in phrases. And when I do that, you follow me better and I come across easier to understand, but I'm not speaking so fast. And
Mhm.
so the pausing that we use when we speak has a lot of purposes. It helps slow us down. It helps convey our message. It helps us think, and it helps the audience absorb the information. So, oh, and it gets rid of the word fillers. I don't know if I said that. So all of
Yeah,
that together makes us better, makes us deliver much better. So pausing is key.
I love it. Yeah. The word fillers is a big thing. Like the ahs, the ums, like you don't notice when you're actually doing it. And you go back and you watch some of the presentations I have, at least things I've done, and you don't hear it up on stage, or you don't hear it when you're on a Zoom. Then you go back and then all of a sudden you're like,
Mm.
oh geez, I said it like 7 times. And you're so critical of yourself. Sometimes I don't think it's a bad thing, and I think people understand. But other times, man, I've been and listened to so many different people that have done just repeated, and it's just painful.
And David, I think if the audience begins to count it, that's when it's too much. There,
Right.
there's some research out there now that's saying that the uhs are okay because there are a few reasons you might use them. One is you may be holding the floor so nobody
Mhm.
else interrupts you. They hear you're still talking. Another is I'm being mindful and
Mhm.
thoughtful about what I want to say next. So those could be good reasons for using it. But when they start to fill up all the time and we're just using it in between and we're not pausing, that's when it becomes the distraction.
Gotcha. Yeah, and you wrote an article about that on Needworking, as a matter of
Mhm,
fact. So
mhm.
we have an area where our users can put an insight in. So that's what we're always looking for, is just expert information. So appreciate that. So I would recommend everyone to actually go and read that article and insight. So walk me through clients that you work with. Like, who do you typically speak to? Who comes to you for help? What are they looking for?
And I used to say everybody, but I have to be more specific in that because we're all looking to improve our communication skills. But think about the person who's an entrepreneur, has their own business, has to speak up at meetings, will start to do presentations or wants to go to trade shows or present themselves, or even just network. I can help those people. Rising leaders, people who are moving up in their organization and they feel that they don't have that executive presence, that they feel they have the skill set, but not the executive presence when they walk in a room or speak in front of a group of people, lead other leaders. And so those people might work on their executive presence. And a special niche with whom I work with are people who are non-native speakers of English. They're brilliant. They have their advanced degrees, PhDs, MDs. They're working in pharma. They're working in IT, and they are so knowledgeable in their skill set. And they might even write very well. But when they talk to people, they're hard to understand because of their accent. And so I don't work to eliminate their accent. I work to help them speak in a way that they're understood the first time. And that's a very specific niche
It
that I.
really is specific, and I'll tell you, there are incubator things that I've been on with startups, and brilliant people. But some of the times it's really difficult on a call to really
Mhm.
understand, especially if they don't have their Zoom camera on. So when their camera is not on,
Yes.
then trying to understand in the background with just a name is really difficult. So you try to do it because you don't want to be rude, you don't want to be insulting, and you try to listen in, especially if there's a question for the group and you're like, you just don't know how to gauge it. So that's very interesting that you do that. So I
And
think I think in the startup world, there are a lot of
yeah,
people that do need help just figuring out their messaging and how to present.
whether they're American born or foreign born. And I
Mhm.
do a lot of pitch coaching. I've done a lot for the University of Baltimore's entrepreneurship, innovation and entrepreneurship program. I'm a network advisor at TEDCO. So I listen to pitches and then I give feedback and help them with their communication skills.
Hmm.
And you said something very interesting that people don't always turn on their camera. Remember, I talked about the visual, vocal, verbal. If we don't have that visual information to read, we're only listening to the vocal, the way they're speaking and the words that they're saying, and we may not be able to pick up enough cues to understand them. And so I always encourage people to open up their cameras, even if they're not comfortable doing so.
Well, and with that too, like you can watch the engagement of people
Mhm.
when they're fiddling around, they're like looking around the room, they're doing something else. And that eye contact, even though you've got that little camera like right up here on the screen, you've got to pay attention to it. You actually have to look at it, even
Mhm.
though you might be paying attention to what's happening. But I think that eye contact, even in a Zoom meeting, is really crucial.
Well, more so, I think it's more challenging than in person because with eye contact, like right now, and you're doing a great job, I think, Dave, because I'm not looking directly at you. I'm looking directly at the camera, and I think you are. But in my peripheral vision, I see you. One of the tricks that people can use is to drag the picture of the person under the camera so that I'm looking still at the center of the screen. Because if you're over here and I feel like I'm making great eye contact with you and I'm reading your body language, you don't feel connected to me, but I think I'm looking at you.
Oh, that's so
So
true. Yeah,
so
I'd
I
see that a
need to
lot, the
bring
side
you,
view with the camera.
I
Yeah.
need to bring you in line with the camera. And the same goes for your notes. If you have notes, don't have them over there, have them under the camera. So you're still looking at the same line and it appears, you might look down a little bit, but it appears that you're making better eye contact because when you're in a room full of people, you want to look throughout the room. When you're in a Zoom session, and let's say the meeting has 12 people there, you want to look around, you can't. You need to focus on the camera when you're speaking to make your points, and other
Mhm.
times around the room.
Yeah, so with video, I mean, that's now because everybody from the COVID side of it, they were on video all the time. Now they're going back to networking face to face, or it's more of a hybrid. So you're seeing kind of a combination.
Mhm.
So when you're training and talking to people, are you looking at them for in person and on camera, or what are you seeing more of right now? Now that we're out of that COVID stretch?
That's a wonderful question. I'm really seeing both. Most of my training that I do, my one-on-one coaching, is virtual. I have clients in Barcelona, in Australia, and
Hmm.
China. And so most of their meetings, if they work for global organizations, they are often in a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting or some type of virtual meeting. So for those situations, I'm doing a lot of help training with how to conduct a virtual meeting. But then there are the people who are now getting back into other situations where they're out giving pitches and it's no longer a virtual pitch competition, it's an in-person. So in those situations, I'm helping people with that as well. I think the difference is because of COVID, there are so many more virtual or hybrid meetings. And I hope, I believe people have better skills than they had in early 2020 when they were in Zoom meetings. And
Yeah,
I
no,
couldn't
I think so
believe what I saw.
too. Yeah. That was a crazy time, and we were all just trying to learn at that point and
Mhm.
figure out how to get together. And everybody was doing parties on, cheersing and happy hours. It was pretty, and I actually missed some of that too, because you had like a really different type of connection where you were really focused with the Zoom presentation or a happy hour on Zoom compared to in person where you were all in one. So it was really unique. It was a really unique time.
And there are pros and cons to each because you can be in Zoom meetings and people are multitasking. They're checking their mail. You could just see with their eye contact. But in person, you're there. People will see if you're checking out. And so I think, again, there are advantages and disadvantages to each one. The virtual just brings people together from so many different locations. And that's wonderful. Where people couldn't meet before, now they are. But again, there's something about seeing people in 3 dimensions and being able to talk and look and be in the same room. So we have to try to make virtual as close as possible as live. But remember that there are things with live that we have to be very aware of because you can't hide when it's live.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of live, so networking events for startups, especially people going out introducing a new product, like Needworking is always out there trying to talk to people. And I'm always looking to figure out how to refine how we and I talk about need working. In some cases, I'll say it's a Maslow's hierarchy of need, or it's a social marketing platform. And I can tell sometimes people don't get it and they don't resonate. So when you work with different clients, are you helping like a startup really refine some of their bullet points about what their business is and the core of what they're doing typically?
Yes and no. I'm not in marketing, but
Okay. All right.
I've learned a lot about it. And nobody wants to hear what you do. They
Mhm.
want to hear the value it's bringing to them. And let me give you a
That's a
perfect
great point.
let me give you a perfect example of this. Early in my career, when people said, "What do you do?" I would say, "I'm a speech and communication trainer and coach, and I help people align the three V's of communication: the visual, the vocal, and the verbal." And somebody in marketing said to me, "What are you talking about? Like, what does that mean to them?" And so I switched it to, "I help you speak, sound, and look like a leader." That's so focused on what you're going to get from my services as opposed to what I can provide you. Because it's not about me. And ultimately, it might be, but it's not about me. It's like, what can you benefit from? What's the value of what I do? And so, yes, now I learn that for my own business. Why not help that,
Hmm.
teach that to other people? Don't talk about my name is, and this is what I do. It's, what are you having trouble with? How have I been able to help people like you? What can I help you with? And so the messaging is very important. So although I don't have this necessarily the skill set as a marketer, I've learned that and know that even for public speaking, you mentioned this already, you tailor things differently for your audience. If I'm speaking to tech people, it's one thing. If I'm speaking to the C-suite, I speak a different way. If I'm speaking to customers, it's another way. And so just like we tailor our messages when we're giving a speech, why not tailor our messages when we're meeting them and telling them who we are?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love the speak, sound, and look. I mean, that's just really important as a leader. You want to have that engagement with other people. And you have a course, correct?
Mhm.
That you have that whole process like set up. Is it an in-person? Is it online? Like what is that course?
All right. I do have an online self-study course where I
Oh
took
wow.
my years, many years or decades of experience, and I have 50 mini videos that talk about everything from how to deal with the nervousness, how to warm up your voice, how to organize a presentation, looking at the visual, vocal, verbal. So it's a course that has all of that, and it's on a platform. That's the Speak, Sound, and Look Like a Leader course. I
Hmm.
also have master classes where people come for a 2-hour class, and most of them are virtual, some of them are in person, and we work together to help them speak, sound, look like a leader. And that might help them with the nervousness, how to harness the public speaking anxiety, how to speak succinctly, and how to balance those three V's. And so that's a 2-hour masterclass. And then I work with, you mentioned earlier, coaching one-on-one, where I work with that individual for their particular concerns. And then I go to companies and do workshops. Next week, I'm going to a company. I'm working with a group of leaders to help them with these skills. So there are different levels on how I work with people, both from the individual to the small group to running workshops.
Wow, that's awesome. So you're a golfer now too, right?
I
Do you take your clients out on the golf course and then teach them how to speak while you're
Oh,
golfing?
oh, that would be very interesting. But now that you mention it, I did write a book, Tee Up Your Speech. Golf is like public speaking. That's actually a free resource that's on my website. And what happened was, with all the coaching I do with public speaking, and as I started learning to play golf, I saw so many parallels. Don't worry what's going to go wrong. Don't think about the water or the sand trap. Well, don't get up in front of a room and worry about whether I'm going to say or trip off the podium or anything like that. There were so many parallels that I put it together in a book.
Well,
I
that's true. Like I know if I see the water and I think about the water or a bunker, it goes in there.
and
And
and you
same
know
thing with
what?
an
Exactly. If you think I better not say I better not say what is the next word you're going to say? And so
um.
the parallels are there. And I only wish I could play golf as well as I can coach people with public speaking. maybe someday they'll completely align. It's so true. And while I was writing that book and putting together photos of me on the golf course, the next day when I played golf, I played so much better. Because when something went wrong and I stepped away from the ball and
Mhm.
went back to it and was so much better, isn't that like public speaking? Something goes wrong, let it go, regroup, and come right back.
Yeah.
And I love the parallels. Like I said, I wish I could play golf as well as I speak, but and maybe someday that will happen. We
Yeah,
don't.
and that's actually it's a good thought. I've had that situation where I've been up on stage and I just stopped and took a quick breath and just refocused. And when you do that, it kind of refines everything and to get you back into that moment on why you're there. And you might think it's like a lifetime. I mean, it might seem like it's long,
Mhm.
but to the audience, I don't think they think it's that long. They just think it's like a quick or a break, a quick little
Right.
regat, and they get
And
it.
and Dave, you just said the most important thing, which I hadn't even mentioned up until now, and that is breathing and the role of breathing in public speaking or nervousness. Taking that breath, don't rush to get started, is the same thing. Don't rush up to that tee box and swing without a practice swing. And if something distracts you, don't go right back and do it. Take a moment, gather yourself, and then do it. Because we only repeat our mistakes if we don't break the pattern and take that breath. And so
Yeah.
breathing for any sports performance, they teach you that, be focused, take a breath, calm yourself down. And that also slows down your heart rate. So it takes care of a lot of the anxiety that we're feeling.
Mhm. Well, in today's society, there's a lot.
Mhm.
So, and it's just only going to build, I think. I think with a lot of the things that happen politically and online, everybody just sees it. They see the day-to-day stress and the craziness. And a lot of the times you mimic what you're seeing out there.
Mhm.
And so when you see the fast pace, this and this, sometimes, and this is what we talk about in need working too, the followers that people are garnering on social media, you've got so many people follow, you're constantly having to create new content and being creative and pop it out there, where we just, when we put a need in, we want somebody to respond back, and we don't have to have all the crazy messaging. It's like, look, just help somebody. And
Mhm.
it's getting back to that one-to-one communication where people can meet other people, where they're just getting back to just having a knowledgeable person that can help them. That's why we call it a
Mhm.
hot potato. If you don't know
Mhm.
the answer, you hot potato it to somebody else. So
Right.
we want those connections that are really tight knit, not just like fast, fast, fast.
And that's about communication. You just don't rush to respond to that email. Don't rush to say something that you might regret. Don't rush to get something out there so quickly and maybe you didn't say it as well as you could have. And that also brings me to my Miss Persnickety, my alter ego here, where I wrote a book, Miss Persnickety's Guide to Everyday Misspeaks. Sometimes we're just people say be authentic and say how you want to say it, but we're judged by how we speak. And so if we can make sure that we're speaking in a way that is not a distraction and makes us sound as educated as we truly are, that's going to be important for our professional image as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. We just launched a shopping cart on Needworking. I said an geez, I did
That's
that.
all right. I didn't even notice it.
So we launched a shopping cart. So is it something that's sold that like through Amazon that we could put through the shopping cart?
Most of my products, well, all of my products are sold on my website.
Okay,
That
awesome.
they're directly on my website and they can be purchased there. I have Miss Persnickety, the book, but I also have an online platform with videos.
Oh,
And so
cool. Okay,
that
great.
is that's housed on my website. Also, some of them are on they are on Amazon, but they're not as easy. I don't do as much marketing on as Amazon. I do it more directly. But we can always
Gotcha.
work it out that they can have access to some of my books or even my master classes. And I'd be certainly happy to give a discount code for people who are part of Need Working if they want to attend one of my master classes. So
Oh,
that's
that's
something we can
awesome.
do.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate
Sure.
that.
Well,
So that's cool.
my passion is to help people communicate better. And it started as being a speech and language pathologist when I worked with people who had communication disorders. But now I just use that same passion to help everybody I can communicate more effectively and be confident in how they're communicating.
That's awesome. So would they have a code to get in, or how would they tell you about,
I
or a
can
link?
create for my master class, I can create a code, and actually we can just call it Need Working. And with
Perfect.
that code, they can get a discount. And I can
Okay.
arrange that with you so we can have that set up.
Awesome. Yeah. And what we'll do is we'll put it up on the website and just let everybody know. And then the other piece of it. So how do people find you? Like where are they going?
Well, my website,
Website.
certainly successfully dash or hyphen speaking.com. That's my website. I have a very robust LinkedIn profile, so they can look me up under Linda Katz Wilner and reach out to me. And on my website, I have a Calendly app where they can schedule a 15-minute complimentary consultation with me. Be it Zoom if they want to show their faces on camera, or phone call, where they can talk to me about my services or what they might be interested or looking for.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the time today. Oh, one last thing.
Yes.
Books. Any books you would recommend? Like,
My books?
but
Or,
well, besides your books, are there any other books that you would recommend?
well, I'll tell you, I will recommend a platform, a learning
Okay.
platform, and that is Udly. You may be seeing
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah. The
this.
education side of it. Yeah.
You may be seeing a lot of this on LinkedIn. I'm actually one of the advisors on the advisory board for it. Udly is an artificial intelligence app that will record you practicing speeches, practicing interviews. It will, Dave, count your ums. It will tell you if you're
Oh,
using non-inclusive language. It will tell you if you're using weak words like so and just. And I'm guilty of a lot of so's in my speech. And it now gives you recommendations. AI, ChatGPT can do this. It gives you recommendations on how you could say your message more concisely.
wow.
It's a free app, and I'll just say it's Yoodli, YOODLI.ai. And right
Okay.
now it's free, and it's a great resource to help people practice their speaking skills.
I love that. I did not know about that. We're always looking for really kind of cool stuff
Yes,
to
it's
push
very
out there. So that's awesome. Well, thank you very much for the time today, Linda.
my pleasure. It's great talking to you, Dave. And I know you're
You,
doing great things with Need Working.
I'm trying. Just keep spreading the word. We
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yes, and go green.
Go green. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks
All
again.
right,
Have a
take
great day.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.